Hey everybody, welcome to What Drives Us, episode 341 for November 13th, 2019. My name is Russell Frost. I am your host for this week's journey into advanced tech mobility and sustainable energy. And yes, I said that all on one breath. Victory for me. We have a really cool show with special guests who I'm going to introduce once I introduce the Rogues Gallery that you're used to seeing here. My compatriot, the man who has my back, my wingman. What do we he's a good guy, and he has really cool new glasses. Ask him about him, Mr. Tony Shade.
Dude.
Was I not supposed to? I
was took him off.
Okay, yes, it's true. I do. I am now almost a syncticitarian. No, what is I don't know. I'm at the point where I have now glasses, but I'm still at the point that they're optional. So there. Now, I usually save this until the end, but I know that not everyone waits until the end. But I want to give some shout outs real quick to Jeff and Christina, Mark, Mike, Andy, David, Richard. A lot of our new subscribers. I want to give a shout out to everyone who's taken the opportunity and taking the time to subscribe to our channel. We really do appreciate it, and we do this for you. One more shout out. Today's beer is from Only Child Brewing. It's a blood orange. Don't tell mom the baby Citra's dead. And it is delicious.
Do you have stock in Only Child yet? Because you should.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
You should announce that before the show starts. So
yeah. No, I'm
pretty
cool.
sure
Disclosure out of the way.
I think I alone keep them in business.
I have no plans to initiate any positions within the next 72 hours.
Well, he is the man behind the Waterloo Region Voltec Group, Waterloo Regional Electric Vehicle Association.
Bingo.
WREVA. The first time I've said that in 6 months, and I totally roached it. He is a Tesla Model 3 owner. He owns a Volt and some bolts, and you know, you know what? He drives one of those Tesla Model 3s now. I try to stop him, but something had to feed his Aero wheel cover addiction. So I would like to introduce him as Mr. Mark Coughlin.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. And the snow is falling in southern Ontario.
Ooh.
Winter has begun. Thanks, Tony, for sending it our way. Really appreciate that Chicago weather coming across the lakes. Yes.
Yeah, we're still digging out. And we're getting more tonight as well. So
that means more's on the way for us. Really appreciate that.
Yeah. Anytime, my friend.
And our next panelist is our friend in the Mid-Atlantic region from his ever more adorned studio. He has his own YouTube channel, drives a Tesla Model X for no discernible reason, Mr. Casey Green.
Hey, it's me. I was actually also going to tell Tony he could take his weather back and keep it.
Hey, you don't want it either.
How's that move north working out for you, huh?
Well, it was actually colder in Charleston this morning than it was here. By 10 degrees. Yeah.
You're still checking. That's cute.
Well, one of the smart devices has failed to accept the move.
Right.
And
No, I get it. I do that too. And last and certainly not least, our technical expert, the founder and owner of Boulder Hybrids, Mr. Paul Guzik.
Howdy, hey. Glad to be back. Welcome, listeners.
Thank you so much. And why is this show so special? Well, there's one person I haven't introduced yet. He's been very patient, very calm. The man flanking the okay, I have to say, number one, huge props for the BoJack Horseman avatar, because I'm a huge BoJack fan, and I'm like, hey, no C-suite dude's going to be having BoJack Horseman avatar. Mr. Asaf Ashkenazi, he is the Chief Strategy Officer for Verimatrix, and Mr. Ashkenazi, we are so glad to have you on the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure.
I think we're all going to enjoy this.
You say that now. Give it time.
Yeah, that's true. Did we tell you that last week's guest cried about 20 minutes into the show? We didn't. They didn't. Your PR person didn't tell you that, did? No.
Of course not. But
I'm
let's
just
see how long I will last.
Yeah. There were no tears. This is a no tears show. So you know what? Here's the toughest question you're going to answer tonight. Verimatrix is a company that does a whole bunch of stuff. What do they do? Because it's not a household name. So why should tell me what you do, what Verimatrix does, and how it pertains to what's going on here?
Sure. So Verimatrix, we are by the way based in San Diego and in France. So we are split, and we are doing cybersecurity, but we've been doing it before it was called cybersecurity. We started doing it in 1995, if you can believe it, protecting many different devices. And this was in the time that Automotive didn't have that much of software and was not in the top news for cybersecurity. So if you look at the products that we are protecting, it's a big range from financial applications that are running on mobile phones into routers in your home, up to the set-top box that running any TV that you have or streaming application that you have on a smartphone to protect the content there. So basically, we have a lot of solutions or different solutions that protects different markets, and one of these markets is the automotive. Now, we do not provide the security, all the security that a car needs, but we cover some of the needs of the security in the car.
Okay. So can you tell us what cars? I know being that it's a security thing, that may not be something you're allowed to talk about, but can you give us some idea of like how many cars you guys are involved with, or what vehicles, or what kind of vehicles?
So we are in one of the top three, and we are protecting mostly the code, and there are different parts that we are doing, and we can talk about what is the problems that needs to be solved and why we need to protect the code. We are running also on mobile applications that today allows you to control the car remotely. So you probably know that in order to open the car, some car manufacturers allows you to do a smart access to the car. Tesla even allow you to control the car remotely, right? Even summon it. So these applications, even if they are not the car.
You went mute.
We lost audio on Asaf.
Maybe
Yeah,
because
there you go.
Tony's a host.
No, I'm the host.
No.
Asaf, give us just a second. Somehow we lost audio. Okay, wait. We might be back.
I'm back.
There we go. We lost your audio. So, but towards the end of your response, that last question. So we got most of that.
I thought that was a hint that I'm talking to you.
I appreciate you thinking we're that subtle. It would, yeah, no. So you protect code. Now, that's ambiguous. And I'm sure there's, because of what you do, I'm sure there's only certain things you're allowed to talk about. So when I think of code, I mean, are we talking about the code in the computers that control the vehicles? Are we talking about access codes for like smart keys? You said do you handle some mobile apps?
If we look at cars, 30, 40 years ago, it was mostly machines, right? There was no computer code. But in today's cars, people sometimes don't realize the amount of code or what we call software that is running there. So I'll give you an example. Where do you think, I'm sure you'll get the right answer, but where are more lines of code?
F-35 jet or Ford GT?
Ford GT.
I gotta think the avionics in the jet has more code, but it's military. They probably have very strict limits on what can run and what's vetted. So
And it was started 20 years ago.
Well, there's that. Yeah.
So the F-35 have about 8 million lines of code, and the Ford GT have 10 million lines of code. Now, why it is important? Because these lines of code, or what we call software, is written by people, and people make mistake. And there is something that we call in the industry bug density. It means that there is certain amount of bugs for every amount of software or lines of code. And for that generally software that somebody writes, it's about between 10 to 50 bugs per 1,000 lines of code.
Wow.
Now, if you're having much more strict testing and the reviews, you can get it much lower. And I hope that automotive software is better than the industry standard or average. But still, even if it's much lower, even we are talking about 1 or a half, or let's say 1 bug per 5,000 lines of code. If you have 10 million lines of code in the car, it means that there are a lot of bugs there. And why does it matter? Because these bugs are, excuse me, the way that hackers actually get and hack things. We like to think that it's like in the Hollywood movies when they sit on their computer and doing and immediately hack a device and get in. But in reality, what hackers are doing is that they start to examine this code, reverse engineer it, and see where somebody make a mistake or some of the programmer made a mistake. Now, what makes software even less secure is when it is provided from many different sources, and then it's combined together. And in these stitches where they put the software together, there are a lot of vulnerabilities happening because it's usually not very coordinated. And the amount of software suppliers in the car, when you look at the manufacturer's supply chain and the different components that are getting to the car are tremendous.
Okay, hold on just a second. That's an epiphany right there. So you're saying that our cars, and we all know the cars are running software, but you're saying that the software is coming from multiple different providers, and then they mash it all together and more or less hope that it all runs smoothly.
No, I would not say hope or something like that. They're doing a lot of tests, right? So let's give them the credit. I'm just saying that usually, statistically, when you get software coming from different components, think about it like you're renovating your house and there are multiple companies providing multiple parts that eventually all needs to come together. It works, but there is more chances that somebody will make something wrong and it will not fit in the corner where it's supposed to be.
Or the plumber runs the water through the electrician's workspace or something.
Oh, nice.
Yes, exactly. So in the software, somebody's doing an operation and he doesn't aware that this operation caused something else for somebody else. And the thing with when you have bugs when the car doesn't run, or they detect it in testing. But when you have a bug that just causes vulnerability that is dormant in the code, it's very difficult to find it. So more lines of code means what we call attack surface, which is bigger, because it gives more opportunities for the hackers to get.
Sure.
And so the first thing that happened in the car, or if we look at the evolution of cars, is the amount of code. But the second thing that happened and changed the game is internet connectivity. Because before internet connectivity, in order to, even if you find a vulnerability in the car, in order to get to that vulnerability, you have to have physical proximity to the car. And that's not so attractive. I mean, it's good for researchers that want to find a name for them, but at the end of the day, if I want to sabotage a car and I'm like in physical proximity, I don't need to be a hacker. I can do other things that are more low-tech.
Right. Sure, sure.
So, but once you add the internet connectivity, that means that potentially everyone in the world that have access to the internet can access the car.
And we saw that a couple times with several major manufacturers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure. Sure. We've seen that, with several companies. So as I understand what you do, and I'm just going to repeat this back to see if I'm getting it. You look at OEM's code for various systems. In the case of this show, mostly vehicles we're interested in, and you examine it, look for defects, look for bugs, to make it more secure.
Not exactly, but
Okay.
this is part of the ecosystem of making sure that cars code is secure. So the first layer is what you're saying. So the first layer, they need to be somebody that's testing it, and there are different ways to test. So what you want to do is to reduce this bug density, to find as many of these vulnerabilities before the code goes to market. But what we are doing is we take, after you clean the code, or try to clean it as much as possible, we make it very difficult to read and to reverse engineer or to change. So what we do is, if you think about it, in order to find this vulnerability, hackers needs to understand how the code runs, how it operates. So they do what's called reverse engineering of the code. If the code is not readable and they cannot see what's going on and understand, it's very difficult for them to find these bugs that left. Because even when you try to clean it, the code, there will always be things that left. So we first make it very difficult for them to find it. But then if they find something, finding the vulnerability means that you got your foot in the door, but in order to do something that the car is not intended to do, you need to inject your own code. So if you think about it, a computer is something, or the hardware is something that is stupid, basically, and it just follow what the software tells it to do. So the goal of the hackers is to put a piece of software that he wrote there to tell this component to do something else than what it intended to.
Right.
Wow.
So we detect in real time that the code is changed and somebody tried to execute a code that was not intended to be executed. And we are doing it in real time. And that allows to provide another layer that makes it difficult for hackers to even if they found a vulnerability, to be able to what we call exploit this vulnerability.
So that's almost like, it sounds like there's almost like a watchdog, like you said, in real time, constantly looking, and when a change, can you tell us now, and again, I mean, we understand the non-disclosure, and all that, but what happens? I mean, I'm sure you don't just like seize up the car or whatever, but I mean, let's say a change is detected. What happens?
So it depends where it is. When it's in something that is not critical, you can crash the application. So for example, if it's an application that the hacker tried to hack and it's in the phone and it's control the car, you can crash it and get the hacker frustrated. But you're right, if it's a component in the car, in the vehicle, you cannot crash it. However,
you have to be careful when you're using crash and car in the same sentence.
I just feel like
software malfunction.
Yeah.
So crashing, right? Let's say we try to stop the execution of
the program from executing.
Yes.
So what's again, if we go to the image that we have of a hacker that immediately gets in and say, yes, I'm in, I got to the car. In reality, they find a vulnerability and then they try different things. It's a process that sometimes takes a month or even more to find out. And each time they fail, they crash, we detect it. And we pass it on to a component that provides it to a cloud service, not ours, but we report it to the OEM or whoever use our solution. And then they can start to see, all right, in this part of the code, there was a detection of somebody tried to modify it. And then it can pinpoint them to look, all right, what's wrong with this code? But probably there is a bug there if somebody is going to look. So they can now know, instead of looking at all of these 10 millions of lines of code, they can say, okay, this specific line, there is a problem. Let's look what's going wrong. And then they're saying, oh, we forgot to protect that, or we forgot to do that. And then they can fix it before the hacker managed to develop the exploit that will do something bad. Now, that's a big if, because there is something that is very important that is crucial in improving the security of vehicles. And that's the ability to update the code or the software remotely over the air. And that's something that we are still a little bit behind. Because if you look at how our computers and our phones working, you always get like, oh, update your software because there is a security bug. Why? Because we said there will always be bugs that will slip out and somebody will find them. The reason that we are still functioning and we are still talking and things are relatively working, we have a lot of breach, but let's say it's still functioning, is because you can, once you find this thing, you can patch and fix it very fast. Today on phones, on computer, you can have in a matter of days updates all the devices. But cars, some car manufacturers are still behind, and it requires to go to the dealership and to physically patch the software. And that's makes more complications. So thing that will make improve the security a lot in vehicles is the ability to update the software and the firmware of the car, what we call over the air. It means that it's through the internet link instead of going physically and connect something to the OBD to update the software.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about these groups, these hackers that are going after these vehicles, do you have any connection to know who are these people? Are they working organized? Are these just people that are bored and decide to do this on the weekends? Or is there any, do you have any information as to what these people are doing or why they're doing it?
Yeah, give me just a second, Mark. I'll open up my Tor browser. I'll have an answer for you in just a couple of seconds.
Well, you know, it's a very good question, because we like to think about the hackers that will cause the cars to crash and cause major disasters. But actually, most of the hackers are looking for one thing.
Money.
Money.
Information, yeah.
So what are the things that they are trying to do, or these groups? It's usually not individual. You have researchers that are doing it, what we call white hat, that they are finding it and then report it. But and that's a lot of what you hear sometimes. But the one that are doing, that trying to create or to make money, there are different ways that they can make money. The first one is the good old-fashioned, just selling your information in your privacy. Most cars have a GPS and locator there. So if they have access to the GPS, they can say, all right, let me put a service. If you give me your VIN number of anyone that you know, I can tell you where they go, right? So by hacking that, and let's say that I hack the cars of that manufacturer, I'm saying, hey, who wants to use my service? You want to track your wife or your neighbor or whatever it is, just log in, pay me a little bit, and I go to and do that. And actually, there was an aftermarket solution that was hacked that used GPS and the ability to stop the car remotely, and it was hacked by a hacker. And he was kind enough, because he was not looking to make money, but he said, look, I have now the control of these amounts of cars, and I can shut them down now, and I can also know where everyone are driving in real time. So that's one thing that they can do. This is the privacy. The other thing that they can do is what we call ransom or ransomware.
Sure.
And that's usually, nobody admits it, and you will not know that it happened, because what we don't know about companies that are paying the ransom. What we know is when you track after hackers groups and tools to develop ransom, we see a big growth. So if there is a big growth, it means that there is a business. It means that somebody paid them. We just don't know. So the way that they work let's say in a hypothetical way, because I don't have any information about specific car, but if I hack a car and I can get, let's say, can shut it down or do any other damage, if I'll try to do something that will kill people or get people injured, probably I'll have, the FBI, the Interpol, everyone going after me, and I don't know why will I do that. But if I go to the security team of this company and I tell them, hey, this vehicle here that you have, look, I can do that. Now, if you don't pay me a retention bonus or whatever you call it, then I can do it to all
Consulting
cars of that model. Right? Here is a way that I can make money. Now, I'm not saying again that I have any examples specifically on an auto, but that's part of how they are doing it with different companies, how they extort them.
So, some examples of this actually happening in real life were several times Tesla were hacked by these were researchers, so it wasn't out in the wild. One was through the web browser, another was through, I believe, the MP3 player or something like that. And then there was another American auto company that literally got hacked in real life through the head unit of the car. Whoever supplied the head unit didn't fully secure their software, and they were able to bounce from the head unit through a not fully secured connection to the CAN bus, and then they had control of your steering, your braking, and everything until the patch came out. And then you had to go to the dealership, plug in the USB, and then make sure everything updated to the right version. Yeah,
they actually sent a USB sticks to a lot of the drivers because they didn't have over-the-air updates.
Yep.
And that was interesting. But take an example.
Couldn't a sophisticated hacker group send these USB sticks to customers and say, plug this into your car, and it puts in a back door to get in and do more stuff, right?
Well, it's not that simple because you have mechanisms that checks what's get into the car, and if it's not what's called signed with a digital key, it cannot run from the first place. So it will not be accepted by the car software if it's built correctly. But the problem with ransom is that you don't know. Maybe what we are saying that somebody already hacked and got paid happened. It's just nobody will. No car manufacturer will go
say we just paid $1 million in Bitcoin to some.
And again, I'm not saying that this happened, but what I'm saying that if it happened, we probably wouldn't know.
Right. One of my best friends that go back to high school was a VP of cybersecurity for one of the largest banks in the United States. And we've spent many hours exchanging horror stories. Mostly me listening, but just talking about what goes on. And you bring up a really good point, which is, for the most part, the big hacks you never hear about because the companies are never going to talk about it. They paid a ransom, they've done something, they've smoothed it over, and they're moving on past it. So it's hard for a consumer to really be able to have the information to appraise the real risks. Because we don't know. We hear about, Target lost 500,000 credit card numbers today, or somebody, this and this, but we hear this a small percentage of the time from when it really happens.
It's the tip of the iceberg. So if you can see the entire iceberg, but you don't know about it. So if you go to the, I think it's the EMF or the FBI reports, I don't remember now the numbers, but there is, it's public, the amount of money that is stolen electronically from the financial system worldwide, and it's so big, it's billions, and we hear stories. So I'm saying, where are all these billions going? And on the other hand, you see all these hackers' activity and thing and groupings, and they are organized like a business, right? They have suppliers of the tools, they have subcontractor. So you're saying all this ecosystem exists. Somebody funds this ecosystem. It means that most of these attacks and these leaks we never hear about.
So wasn't that the plot of Superman 2?
No, I mean, I know my friend and I spent a couple of evenings going over the Verizon data breach report. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's a very, very popular tool just to look at the generalities of the stuff that's reported and see, and it's staggering. It is staggering the amount that goes on. So, okay, one of the things you said, there's sort of an irony here. Over-the-air updates means that you can plug software holes, you can patch things, you can fix gaps, but it also makes the vehicle less secure. That's the main avenue for hackers to get in. So it's sort of a double-edged sword in a way. I mean, it's setting up kind of a Cold War thing, no?
Well, it depends, because if you don't want to have any security issues, you can go back to cars that are like 50 years, right? I'm saying that people ask me, all right, this phone that you have here, can you make it secure easily? I said, yes, I'll go back to the phones that only allow you to make a phone call, and that's it. It will be secure. But the internet and the updates of the software is not, or the internet functionality, the richness of the infotainment and what you can, and all the things that you can do, they're there basically because it's part of progress and to allow you to have better cars. And they, part of it is that they increase the attack surface, and this is the problem. And we need to also catch up with the security things. And one of the ability that we have, because there is internet connectivity, which is a very powerful tool, is to patch the code very quickly.
Sure.
So we don't, I don't think that car manufacturers and they add the internet connectivity from the first place to have the option to patch it. And then you can say, oh, you add it and you cause the problem. I think that they add the internet connectivity, and today I don't remember exactly the number. I think like 60%. The new cars, a lot of them have internet connectivity, even if the drivers are not aware of it. It exists in the car, in the telematics. So it's added for other reasons, and then it's caused the vulnerability. But let's look fast forward to the future of cars and what we call the V2X, right? Vehicle to vehicle and vehicle to infrastructure.
Yeah.
Right? Now think about it's, security, cybersecurity, and software security is not very different from physical security. You have a house and it has only one door that you can get in. Then you can protect this door, and it's much cheaper to protect it, and much more viable, and you can do that. Now you add more doors and more windows. Now what you do with the V2X, with the amount of connectivity that the car and the entities that the car needs to talk to, other vehicles from other companies, infrastructure that is coming from who knows where, even though that it's standardized, this amount is like taking your house now and have like thousands of doors that you suddenly need to protect. And that will make it much more difficult. And basically would be impossible to think that car will not be hackable. And therefore, we need to start to think about how do we detect an attack in an early stage before it's caused damage. Because as the example that you were giving, in that they get through the infotainment and they jump to, it takes time.
It does.
So if I detect them when they opened the door and got in before they managed to get to the safe room, then, and I have the ability to update that, I can get them out before they cause damage. So the paradigm needs to change. When the car is now have so many connectivities, we need to start to think, the assumption is that the hacker managed to get somehow in. How do we slow them down, make it difficult for them, detect it fast, and then patch it before they manage to create the damage?
Yeah, my favorites are when somebody will win a hacking competition, or you'll hear of a flaw, and all of a sudden the entire Tesla fleet is patched within 2 days. That's when you know it's a big one, versus their regular rollout where it takes a month for everybody to get the update. Or with
Yeah, I could
anyway.
imagine.
Go ahead.
I could imagine in like what you were saying, the V2X, that in order for vehicles to talk to each other or vehicles to talk to infrastructure, they would have to agree on a standard, and that standard would have to be, known to everyone, which means it wouldn't take very long for the hackers to understand the standard itself. So there would be communication standards. So instead of manufacturers having their own proprietary operating system, for example, they would all be communicating using the exact same calls and the exact same references and the exact same communication standard. That is just opening all of the communications to those hackers.
Yeah, yes, you're right. So first they can start to find vulnerabilities in the protocols, and the more protocol that's trying to develop them, there is a chance that will be a mistake there. But then even when the protocols are there, they are eventually get to a level that they are secure. People forget that there is engineers that implement them in software.
Yep.
And this is where they make the mistake. So it could be that I'm driving in my car, and then I move to another city that uses different manufacturers of the infrastructure that bought the software from a third party that sits who knows where, and that has a vulnerability, and that's it. So you're right that on the level of the protocol, it needs to be protected, but then for each implementer, we need to make sure that it is protected, and that's not easy.
Wow. Yeah.
You're actually painting a very grim picture.
Yeah. I kind of want to disconnect my computer.
We've already got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. After many conversations with my friend, believe me, the feelings that you guys have right now, all the time.
Yeah.
It's not that the world will come to an end, but and I think that there is a lot of progress of auto manufacturers investing in security. They have groups of very talented people working on security, but we'll need, as we move and advance in this always connected and the multi-connectivity, we'll need to move to a model that is closer to a computer, a smartphone, than think of a car as a car. That's where the updates need to be fast. There need to be anomaly detection in the car to detect threats. So everything that is now being done in let's say in a network of computers or in more sophisticated device will need to be in the car. At the moment, mostly the cars rely on an old paradigm that it's like building a fence and making sure that nobody gets in. But if they get in,
they have free reign.
They are basically have a problem. The paradigm needs to be changed. Yeah, we should try to make sure that they don't get in. Don't get me wrong. It's not that we'll open the door for them. But the focus needs to change is, okay, assume that they are in. Now, how do I slow them down? And how do I kick them out before they create the damage? And that's change. I hope that I don't see it yet in automotive, but I hope that slowly it will happen, and then the situation will be better.
You need those like digital tire spikes like they have at rental car places that you can go this way, but if you go backwards, it blows all the tires out.
Yes. And you one of the things that we've talked about on our show many times, the adoption of new technology and the generational turnover of vehicular fleet. We know cars will last 10 years, 20 years out in the wild. So even if we started implementing advanced vehicles with over-the-air updates and increased security, it's still going to be 15 to 20 years before all of today's cars are off the road.
Oh yes. Look at your computer. Microsoft will hold it for 10 years. Apple, for 5? Linux, if you're on a long-term release, you might be good for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to look and see what the expiration policy is on your car. Are they going to support it for 3 years like a cell phone, or more likely 2? Or are they going to do it just the warranty period? Or are they going to do the full 20 years that your car is expected to be out there on the American roads?
Or is it going to be another option for Symantec to sell us
Yeah.
monthly subscriptions to security packs that we have to load?
But there's TVs out there that run antivirus right now, and if you stop paying your antivirus subscription, like it pops up, hey,
Oh
buy
my
your
gosh.
antivirus. Yeah,
But I think
on the
for
TV.
20 years, and I'm wondering, let's say that they have the ability to patch the code, and they're saying, how do you find and understand the code that was written 20 years ago when the tools,
Yes.
everything changed? If I need somebody now to debug software that were written 10 years ago, it's very tough to find somebody that can do that.
Yeah.
So that's a very good point when we are looking at the time that cars will be there. It's interesting.
And when you look at what they run, they are rapidly switching to modern technology. Look at how many NVIDIA Tegras were out there for display clusters or head units, and look now they're running the latest ARM chips or like Intel Mobile, and like some of them even have Ethernet in addition to the CAN bus. They're rapidly becoming like your cell phone and your PC smushed together.
Well, I mean, look at what Tesla did with the Model 3 braking thing.
Yes.
Software-controlled ABS.
Yes.
Now, if they can make it brake better with software, what piece of ransomware could make the brakes not work at all?
Yeah. Or even the latest
Probably
update. Even the latest update now, it'll stop when you just take your foot off the gas, like complete stop, brakes on,
Right.
everything. Yeah.
The one pedal thing, sure.
Yeah.
But
So, like you said, what if somebody got in there and they had some unsigned code and it didn't check? What could they get away with? Thankfully,
there's a very valuable bit of ransomware right there.
yeah. But thankfully, his fear is that he'll wake up one day and the entire fleet will be in Rhode Island. So they've committed.
Yeah, imagine that. Imagine that. All the cars get the same destination overnight, and away they leave. Everyone's driveways at the same time. Like, what a PR disaster!
Right.
And so that would be awesome.
Yeah. So they're committed to the security that's necessary to stop that.
Can I just hope that happens?
Or
that would be
if
both
some
phenomenal
hacker
and
gets all the cars to leave on their own and start driving into each other, and then ransomware the insurance company say, look, you pay up or we're just going to keep smashing them into each other. No one get hurt.
Right.
Send them all to the same roundabout and they just keep driving around.
And so now you have to not just look at, will your car make it 20 years? You have to look and see, was it built secure in the first place? And what's their commitment to maintain you? Like with my Chevy Volt, there was the digital tachometer is what I call it, where it would show you the power meter, like where's the power going? Is it going to the heater? Is it going to the battery? Whatever. To get that from my 2012, there weren't that many differences between 2012 and 2013 that screen wouldn't work because the data was already in the car. Their solution was buy a new car. I said, well, what if I give you $200 for the software? No, we don't do that.
Right.
No, they don't want it. They don't want to do it because they don't want to update a car and possibly cause another problem, fixing the first problem.
There's an element of that.
They want you to buy a new car.
That's the real reason.
They're in the business of selling new cars, not upgrading old cars. Because if they weren't upgrading old cars, no one would be buying new cars.
Right, and so they're all going to need a security stance and policy, just like you find with Tesla. So that as a customer, if you realize all this stuff, they're going to, hey, we've contracted with your company or anybody else, and this is what we've done to protect your family. If they won't commit to that, how comfortable are you as a customer?
So I have a question for Asaf. What do you have? What does Verimatrix have that OEMs don't have, OEM car companies? Because they certainly have lots of software engineers now, and there are software experts, geniuses, whatever, at every car company on the planet. Well, at least most of them. What's your secret sauce? What do you have? What do you guys know that the people at Toyota or Tesla or Hyundai don't know?
So, again, a security in a vehicle has many components. Like we might mention, the part that is doing the updates over the air, the protection and the perimeter. We are specialized in or doing something specific to protecting the code itself, or what's called self-protected code. It means that the code is protecting itself as it runs. It does not rely on an external component that's running in the car to do it. So as it runs, it can protect itself and can detect these hacks. And this technology was developed. We did it for it took us many years to develop. And it's used by, I wish I could tell you all the names, but big banks are using it. It's used in from IoT devices to your streaming video that is that you probably use in one of the big services that are available to stream video in many different places. So that's for that product. This is our expertise, and yes, I think that the car manufacturers, I mean, could work for like spend 10 years and build that, but they have to build also like 10 or 20 other security technologies. On the hardware, there are many things that are being done. So I don't want to, don't get me wrong, our solution, which I believe in and think that it's a great solution alone, it's not a, a magic solution. It's one component out of an array of solutions that needs to be used to protect the car. So if the car manufacturers will try to build everything themselves, it take them a long time, and it will not be easy. So that's why they are going to different companies. Sometimes they buy them, and sometimes they license the technology and they're using it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Any final questions, kids? I'm going to be quiet.
I have no final question. I just I want to thank you, Asaf, of course, and your explanations and descriptions. For a very complex topic, you do a very excellent job of articulating it. Thank you
very much.
I have a question. Who are your competitors in the automotive space? What'd you say?
The hackers?
No.
Yeah.
The companies.
The white hats.
The white hats. There are other companies that are doing code protection. I don't know how much they're selling into the automotive. So that's it's an area that we've been using it in the banking and other areas for many years. It's quite new that we are moving to the auto manufacturers. So it's not that now we have all the auto manufacturers. They still, we are in the process of them learning it. So I don't think that we have big competitors for that specific solutions. We are mostly working with others that you can call them competitors, but we are working with their solution because, as I mentioned, the protection needs to be comprised on others. So if somebody provide, for example, the secure over-the-air updates, it's a code that they run that might have bugs in it. So we can protect their code. So they together, you provide a better solution. So that's where we're working with different security companies.
So, I mean, I think this is going to be crucial for the future of the automotive industry to have security and communications. Is your company privately held, public company? What's the ownership?
So we are public in Euronext in France. So we are listed in France.
Okay.
So Verimatrix was acquired by a company called Inside Secure, which is French company, and our biggest office is here in San Diego, but we have offices in 14 countries, and we have about 1,000 customers in 100 countries. Wow. So, and I bet that you used one of our solutions in the past week without knowing.
Yeah.
Not surprised. Yeah.
That's good.
Anybody else?
Okay, if I can, one real quick. I do want to show you what popped up halfway through the show. This popped up on my screen. I swear to God.
Are you living in like 2005? Why are you still using Flash?
I forgot. I don't even remember why it's still there, but
But it's important
yeah.
to keep it up to date. Otherwise,
talk
And if
about
that shows up on
topical.
your Tesla screen and you click
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
it wrecks your
exactly.
car.
If that shows up in your Prius, you know to run.
Yeah. So it was just so topical that, we're sitting here and then that thing pops up. Yeah.
There you go. Well, Asaf, thank you so much for coming on and spending an hour talking about this. I mean, I think we need to have you on again sometime in the future. Just we didn't even touch on a little bit on autonomous vehicles, which are a huge focus right now. You talked about that communicating with infrastructure, vehicle to vehicle communication, which is key to making that technology work. And you guys are obviously involved in that. And yeah, that's probably another show or two.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It was really fun. I don't have tears, but I tried.
Next time, it's okay. It's after work hours.
You have a reputation to keep, So
we do indeed. We do indeed. Well, let's do some shout outs then and go home. Asaf, I want to start with you. Is there anything you would like to plug? This is the time when everybody gets to talk about something they want to sell.
Well, but this is our solution for the code protection that we are using at Verimatrix. And also you can try it in, we have a very easy to use solution called protectmyapp.com. That is for protecting mobile app applications. And it's free to use as a trial. So anyone that is developing software can go there and try to use it.
Wonderful.
Cool.
It's Verimatrix.com if you'd like to visit the home site. We, of course, want to thank Chief Strategy Officer for Verimatrix, Asaf Ashkenazi, for spending an hour with us this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shout outs, kids. Let's start with Casey Green.
All right. I am presently working on a video about the new Smart Summon update that should be out this week, probably by the weekend. And then our friend Mark Coughlin and myself, we did a collaboration video this past weekend.
What?
Where where we went over the new I'm Feeling Lucky and I'm Feeling Hungry buttons. So Mark went into how to use the features and what they're good for, and then my wife Luna and we took it out and let the car be the tour guide for the weekend. So check it out on the Tesla Life Show, and check it out on my channel at youtube.com/KCGreen, KACEYGREEN.
That's so beautiful. I feel like, I don't know. I'm going to shut up now. Paul, I hear you have a business.
Little business in Boulder, Colorado, boulderhc.com. We fix and repair hybrid and EVs, and don't do much hacking into them, but
Excellent.
Some of the tools we have to go to the dark web to be able to diagnose some cars, but anyway, check us out, Boulder HC, if you're in the Colorado region.
I was just going to say you're being a little too mild here, because I know that you've dug into the dark side to kind of, whether it's a Coda or something
only
else.
on companies that don't make their tools available to independent repair shops.
I never accuse you of any impropriety. I'm just saying sometimes, you got to get in there and figure out what's going on.
One of the best manufacturers for supporting independent repair shops is definitely Toyota. They make all their tools and knowledge and manuals, everything available to shops like us. So good for Toyota.
Yay!
Not good for other companies that begin with a T.
Ooh, yeah, legendarily bad company when it comes to cooperating with independents. Mr. Coughlin.
Well, Casey already gave a shout out for our video at the Tesla Life, so you can go there and check that out. Also, if you're in the Waterloo region, please join us on our Facebook page. That's the Waterloo Region Electric Vehicle Association, or on Twitter, WREVA Group. You can find us there.
Tony Schaefer, bring us home, baby.
Yes, I want everyone to know that if you want to read all the news that we're reading, make sure and check us out online. You got a couple of options there. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/whatdrivesus. You can leave us comments, suggest news items, or just like the page. And I want to give shout outs to our Facebook fans who have been sending us news items. We're going to get to those as best we can. So just hang tight. Also, if you use Flipboard as a news aggregator like I do, make sure and subscribe to the What Drives Us magazine. One more shout out to the St. Louis Blues. You suck.
You guys and your hockey thing. I just don't. Hockey.
Fusco's not on the call, so you know.
He can't defend himself.
Fair enough. Best chance to sink that blade in and twist it hard. Once again, I want to thank Asaf Ashkenazi for coming on and doing the show. Thanks to Verimatrix for letting him do that. My thanks to Casey Green, Paul Guzik, Tony Schaefer, and Mark Coughlin for asking the intelligent questions I couldn't think of. And of course, as always, I want to thank Michael Mannering for his amazing theme music. Visit him at manthing.com. Visit us on YouTube and subscribe. The subscribers are just shooting up into the sky, and we love that. The best way to support this show is to send me cash. But the second best way, if you're not going to send small bills to my house, and I'll give you the address, go to youtube.com/whatdrivesus. Click that subscribe button, click the little bell, get some notifications so that you know when cool shows like this come on, because otherwise you're just guessing and you're missing all the good stuff. Thanks, of course, to all of you who listen live. Well, not live anymore, but watch, download, stream, listen to the audio version. You're the reason we do the show. So thank you. Tune in next week and find out what drives us. See you next week.